The fluorescent hum never stops. Neither does the knot in your stomach. You've walked past that door 3 times this morning, once with coffee, once pretending to check your phone, once because you told yourself today was the day. But your hand never touched the handle. The hallway outside your boss's office has become your personal valley of Elah, and every hour you delay, the giant's shadow grows taller across your chest. You know the feeling. The rehearsed line that dissolves the second you imagine their face. The calendar reminder that makes your throat tighten. The 2 a.m. conversations where you're eloquent, calm, unshakable. And the 9 a.m. reality where you delete the meeting invite and tell yourself it's wisdom, not cowardice. You've called it discernment, timing, strategy. But in the silent moments when you're alone with the truth, you know what it really is. You're afraid to speak. I was afraid to speak. God taught me to stand, not loud, not flawless, not without trembling, but standing. And if you're here because avoidance has become your native language, because you've mastered the art of walking away from hard conversations while calling it peace, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because what I'm about to show you isn't a script for confidence or a formula for confrontation. It's something older and truer, a name that steadies voices in valleys when every human instinct screams to run. You'll leave here with 3 things. 1 sentence you can actually say, 1 posture you can hold when your knees want to buckle, and 1 plan you can execute today, not someday, today. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's alignment under a name bigger than the outcome. And that alignment starts in the most unlikely place, a hallway you've been avoiding, a door you've rehearsed opening 100 times in your mind, and a conversation that's been waiting for you longer than you've been running from it. Divine whisper. As I was with David in the valley when trained soldiers fled, I am with you in the hallway when your voice fails. You are not going alone. Let me show you what happened when I finally stopped rehearsing and started standing. Let me show you the morning everything changed, not because I became brave, but because I discovered whose battle I was actually fighting. The alarm goes off at 5:47 a.m., and my first thought isn't gratitude or prayer or even coffee. It's the meeting. Tuesday, 10 a.m., scheduled 3 days ago in a moment of what I thought was courage but now feels like temporary insanity. My phone screen glows with the calendar notification, and my stomach drops like I've just missed a step in the dark. I could cancel. Reschedule, mark it tentative. Say something came up. My thumb hovers over the notification, rehearsing excuses that sound professional enough to hide the truth. I'm terrified. The apartment is still dark, my wife is asleep, the coffee maker gurgles in the kitchen, the only sound besides my heartbeat in my ears. I scroll through my email, pretending I'm being productive, but really, I'm just avoiding the moment I have to get dressed, walk into that building, take that elevator, stand in that hallway and knock on that door. 40 days, that's how long I've been carrying this conversation in my chest. 40 days since the incident that made it unavoidable. 40 days of Goliath taunting me across the valley while I stood with the rest of Israel, frozen, pretending I didn't hear him. The coffee tastes like metal. I open my notes app and scroll to draft number 11 of what I'm supposed to say. It's 3 paragraphs long, professional, diplomatic, carefully worded to avoid offense while still making my point. I read it twice and delete the whole thing. It sounds like I'm apologizing for existing. I start over. This time it's too aggressive. 4 sentences that would get me walked out by security. Delete. The cursor blinks. My chest tightens. I set the phone down and press my palms against the cool countertop, trying to remember the breathing technique I learned from a podcast I'll never admit to listening to. 4 counts in. 7 counts hold. 8 counts out. It doesn't help, because this isn't a panic attack. This is clarity I've been avoiding. I've been telling myself this is about timing, wisdom, not wanting to burn bridges or create unnecessary conflict. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I'm afraid. Afraid of how they'll respond. Afraid of what it will cost me. Afraid that if I open my mouth, everything I've built in this job, this company, this carefully curated professional reputation will shatter like glass, and I'll be left standing in the wreckage, exposed and unemployable. Fear has 1,000 voices, and I've memorized everyone. What if they retaliate? What if they don't care? What if I say it wrong and make everything worse? What if speaking up costs me more than staying silent? The shower is too hot, but I don't adjust it. The scalding water feels like penance. I rehearse the conversation again, this time out loud, my voice echoing off the tile, but the words that sound strong in the steam dissolve the moment I imagine saying them to an actual human face, someone with power, someone who signs my paychecks, someone who could decide my voice isn't worth hearing. I used to think courage was loud, fearless, the kind of thing that shows up in movies with a swelling soundtrack and a standing ovation. But standing here, water running cold, I realize courage might just be showing up when every part of you is screaming to stay home. I dress slowly, button the shirt twice because I mess up the first time, knot the tie 3 times before it sits right. My reflection in the mirror looks calm, professional, composed. It's a lie. Underneath the pressed collar and the steady posture, I'm a man who has walked past the same door 17 times in the last 2 weeks, always finding a reason to turn around. My wife finds me in the bedroom, staring at my shoes like they hold the answer. She doesn't say anything, just puts her hand on my shoulder and squeezes once. She knows. She's watched me carry this weight for 40 days. She's heard the midnight pacing, the muttered rehearsals, the self-recrimination that sounds like prayer but isn't. The drive to the office is 23 minutes of negotiation. At the first stoplight, I tell myself I'll do it. By the third, I'm already drafting the email I'll send instead. Cleaner, safer, less confrontational. At the parking garage entrance, I'm Googling how to request a transfer to a different department. I park in my usual spot and sit in the silence, engine off, hands still gripping the wheel. The building looms ahead, glass and steel and fluorescent certainty. Somewhere on the 4th floor, behind a door with a brass nameplate, is the person I need to face. And between here and there is a hallway I've turned into a battlefield. I scan my badge, ride the elevator with 2 co-workers who talk about a Netflix show I've never seen. Smile, nod, pretend I'm not carrying a giant on my back. The 4th floor is quiet. Most people aren't in yet. The hallway stretches ahead, polished tile reflecting the overhead lights, and at the end of it, the door. Closed. Unremarkable. Ordinary. Except it's not. It's the Valley of Elah. It's the place where I either run like Israel's army or step forward like a shepherd boy with a sling. And right now, I don't feel like David. I feel like the soldiers who fled. My desk is 3 doors down from theirs. I sit, boot up my computer, check my email, reply to 2 messages that don't need immediate replies, organize a folder that's already organized. The clock on my screen ticks forward. 7:14 a.m. The meeting is at 10. I have 2 hours and 46 minutes to either find my spine or invent a believable emergency. My hands hover over the keyboard, ready to type the cancellation email when a notification pops up. A message from my wife. Just 3 words. In his name. I stare at those words. We'd talked about this last night. Me spiraling, her listening, both of us eventually opening her grandmother's Bible to a passage she remembered from childhood. 1 Samuel, David and Goliath. A story I'd heard 1,000 times in Sunday school, sanitized and illustrated with felt boards and triumphant music. But last night, reading it as a man who'd spent 40 days running from a conversation, it felt different. Verse 24 hit me like a fist. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. I'd exhaled, almost relieved. See, even soldiers ran, even trained warriors. My cowardice had biblical precedent. But my wife kept reading, past the flight, past the fear. To a shepherd boy who didn't make sense, who showed up with lunch for his brothers and ended up in a valley, facing a giant with nothing but a sling and a stone and a sentence I couldn't shake. Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts. That's when she looked at me and said it quietly, like she was reminding me of something I'd forgotten. You're not going in your name. You're going in his. In his name. I close my eyes. The office noise fades. Keyboards clicking, coffee brewing, someone laughing at a desk 2 rows over. And underneath it all, a whisper I've been resisting for 40 days, the same whisper that met Israel in the valley when they were too afraid to move. I steady what trembles. I don't feel steady. My hands still shake when I think about knocking on that door. My throat still tightens when I imagine their face, their response, their power to make my life difficult. But somewhere underneath the fear, something else stirs. Not confidence, not certainty. Just a faint recognition that maybe, I'm not supposed to do this alone. That maybe the voice I've been trying to find was never mine to manufacture. That maybe courage isn't volume or fearlessness. Maybe it's just alignment, showing up under a name bigger than my trembling. I pull out a sticky note. Write 4 words in blue ink. Speak truth with honor. I stick it to the bottom edge of my monitor where only I can see it. It's not much. It's not a battle plan or a script or a guarantee. But it's something. A breadcrumb. A stone in a sling. And as the clock ticks toward 10 a.m., I realize I have a choice. I can keep rehearsing in the safety of my head, or I can walk down that hallway and discover what happens when you stop trying to sound brave and start remembering whose name holds the outcome. The giant is still there, 40 cubits tall, armed with bronze and intimidation, and the power to fire me if he wants. But for the first time in 40 days, I'm not focused on his size. I'm focused on the name I carry, the name that held a valley when armies ran, the name that steadies voices in hallways when courage feels impossible. I open my calendar, stare at the meeting invite. My cursor hovers over delete, then moves to confirm. I click it. Tuesday, 10 a.m. No more negotiating, no more rehearsals. Just obedience, just alignment. Just one sentence I'm finally ready to say, not because I've mastered fear, but because I've remembered whose battle this is. In his name. The numbness starts small. A dull ache you can ignore if you stay busy enough, distracted enough, professional enough. But by mid-morning, it's spread through my chest like frost on glass. And I'm sitting at my desk pretending to read a report while my mind replays every moment I've backed down from this conversation. Every email I sent instead of walking down the hall. Every time I smiled and nodded when I should have spoken. Every night I told myself tomorrow would be different, knowing it wouldn't be. I've been calling it patience, wisdom, picking my battles, but the truth I've been avoiding lands heavy in my gut. I've been calling fear by 1,000 other names because admitting I'm afraid feels like admitting I'm weak. And weak doesn't survive in this building. Weak gets overlooked, passed over, phased out. So I learned to dress fear up in professional language. Strategic timing, maintaining relationships, not creating unnecessary tension, until I almost believed my own spin. Almost. But sitting here, sticky note on my monitor, meeting confirmed for 10 a.m. I can't hide behind the vocabulary anymore. The armor I've been wearing, the over-explaining, the long emails that say everything except what matters, the careful diplomacy that protects me more than it honors truth. It's all too heavy, like Saul's bronze coat on David's shepherd's shoulders. I've been trying to sound like someone else, someone braver, someone who doesn't lie awake at 2 a.m., rehearsing conversations they'll never have. But borrowed courage doesn't fit. It clanks when you walk. It makes you slower, not stronger. And in the valley, speed matters less than knowing what you're actually carrying. I close the report I'm not reading and open my journal. A leather-bound thing my wife gave me last Christmas that I've filled with grocery lists and meeting notes because I'm afraid of what might spill out if I actually wrote what I felt. But today, the page stays blank longer than usual. My pen hovers. Then finally, I write, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. David's words from 1 Samuel 17, verse 39. The moment he took off Saul's armor and picked up his sling instead. Not because he was confident, because the king's weapons didn't fit the shepherd's calling. What's my armor? I write it out, one piece at a time, and each word feels like peeling back a layer of skin. My brass helmet, over-explaining, justifying myself before anyone asks, building a defense before there's an accusation, talking so much that the real issue gets buried under qualifications and disclaimers and apologies for taking up space. My coat of mail, long emails. CCing half the department so there's a paper trail, so if this goes wrong I have witnesses, so I can say I followed protocol even if I never said what mattered. Hiding behind professionalism like it's the same thing as integrity. My sword, sarcasm, deflection, talking around the issue instead of naming it, making jokes to diffuse tension I'm too afraid to hold, changing the subject when the conversation gets too close to the truth. I stare at the list. My throat tightens, because I recognize myself in every line, and it's not the version I want to be. It's the version I've become. Someone who learned to survive by never being direct, never being vulnerable, never being honest enough to risk anything. And the worst part, it worked. For years it worked. I kept my job, kept the peace, kept my reputation intact. But somewhere along the way, I lost my voice, traded it for safety. And now, 40 days into this valley, I'm realizing safety isn't the same thing as faithfulness. A memory surfaces, unbidden. I'm 7 years old, sitting at the dinner table. My father is talking, lecturing really about something I've already forgotten. My mother is silent, eyes on her plate. I ask a question. Just a question. My father's hand slams the table. Don't interrupt. The silverware jumps. I never ask another question at that table. I learn, quickly and quietly, that speaking up costs more than staying silent. That peace isn't the presence of something good. It's just the absence of something loud. 15 years later, I'm sitting in a high school classroom. The teacher asks if anyone disagrees with his point. I do. I've done the reading. I know he's wrong. But I look around the room, 30 faces, all nodding, and I keep my mouth shut. Because I've learned by now that being right doesn't matter if being right makes you a target. That smooth waters are safer than honest ones. That you can survive by staying quiet, but you might not survive by speaking up. 23 years old, first real job, sitting in a meeting where my boss takes credit for my idea. I feel the heat rise in my chest, the words forming on my tongue. That was mine. I brought that to you last week, but I swallow them. Smile, nod. Tell myself it doesn't matter, it's not worth the fight, there will be other ideas. And there are. And he takes those too. And I let him. Because by now, silence isn't just a strategy. It's my native language. Now I'm 31. Different job, different boss, same pattern. The issue that's been waiting for 40 days isn't new. It's just the latest iteration of a script I've been following since I was 7. Stay quiet. Keep the peace. Don't make waves. Survive by being small, agreeable, invisible. And it's worked. God, it's worked. I've kept jobs I hated, maintained relationships I should have confronted, protected a version of myself that looks calm and capable and utterly empty. I set the pen down. My hands are shaking, not from fear this time, from recognition. Because I'm starting to see the pattern, not just in this job but in every valley I've ever stood in, every conversation I've avoided, every time I let someone else's voice matter more than truth. Every moment I chose comfort over courage because I thought courage meant being loud, and loud meant being destroyed. But maybe that's the lie. Maybe courage was never about volume. Maybe it was always about alignment. Divine whisper. I never asked you to be loud. I asked you to be aligned. I pick up the pen again. Write a new list. This one shorter, simpler. 5 things David carried into the valley. Not borrowed from a king. Not designed to impress an army. Just tools that fit his hands and served the name he carried. 1. Truth, the core issue, plainly named. Not dressed up, not apologized for, not buried under 3 paragraphs of context. Just the thing that needs to be said. 2. Honor, respect for the person, even when confronting the problem. Not attacking, not shaming, not tearing down. Just refusing to let silence grow giants. 3. Brevity, 1 sentence, maybe 2, not a manifesto, not a therapy session, not a dissertation on everything that's ever been wrong. Just the truth that matters, said clearly enough to be understood. 4. Calm tone, not suppressed rage disguised as professionalism, not fake politeness covering contempt, just governed fear, feeling it, acknowledging it, and speaking anyway because the name I carry is steadier than my trembling. 5. Eye contact, presence over performance, staying in the room instead of retreating into my head, not staring someone down but not hiding either, just being there, being seen, being honest. I read the list 3 times. None of it feels natural. All of it feels like stripping down to skin and bone, walking into the valley without armor, trusting that the name I'm carrying will hold when my hands shake. But that's the point, isn't it? David didn't walk into the valley confident in his sling. He walked in confident in the God who'd held him when lions came, when bears came, when everyone else said he was too small for the fight. I think about the sentence I need to say, not the 11 drafts on my phone, not the 3-paragraph email, not the clever, cautious, carefully worded version that protects me more than it honors truth. Just one sentence. The sentence I've been avoiding for 40 days because it's too direct, too vulnerable, too honest. I respect your leadership, and I need to address what happened in last month's meeting so we can move forward with integrity. That's it. 20 words, no qualifications, no apologies for existing, no long explanation about why I'm bringing it up, or how I've been processing it, or what I hope the outcome will be. Just truth, just honor, just brevity. The 3 stones that fit my hand. I write it on a fresh sticky note, stick it next to the first one. Speak truth with honor, and underneath it now. I respect your leadership, and I need to address what happened in last month's meeting so we can move forward with integrity. My chest tightens reading it, because it's real now, not theoretical, not something I'm planning to say someday when I'm braver or more articulate or less afraid. It's the sentence I'm going to walk into that office and say in 2 hours and 12 minutes. The sentence that could change everything or change nothing, but will at least let me sleep tonight knowing I showed up. I close my eyes. Try the breath prayer my wife taught me last night, the one we found tucked into 1 Samuel like it was waiting for this exact moment. Inhale, Lord of hosts. Exhale, goes before me. It's not meditation. It's not a calming technique. It's alignment. Remembering whose name holds the room before I walk into it, whose battle this is before I open my mouth, whose outcome it is before I measure success or failure by how they respond. Lord of hosts goes before me. The shaking in my hands doesn't stop, but something underneath it shifts. Not confidence, not certainty, just a quiet recognition that I'm not manufacturing courage. I'm not trying to become someone else. I'm just remembering whose name I carry. And that name, the name David spoke over Goliath, the name that held Israel when armies fled, the name that steadies what trembles, that name fits. It doesn't clank. It doesn't slow me down. It doesn't make me someone I'm not. It just makes me true. Divine whisper, wear only what fits your calling. 9:47 a.m. The office is fuller now. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, someone microwaving fish in the break room, normal sounds, ordinary day. Except in 13 minutes, I'm walking down that hallway, and this time I'm not turning around. I stand, smooth my tie, pick up my phone, not to scroll, not to distract, not to find an excuse, just to see my wife's message one more time. In his name. I whisper it back to the empty air, not loud, not confident, just obedient. The sticky notes stay on my monitor. The sentence stays in my chest. The breath prayer stays on my lips. And the armor, Saul's heavy, borrowed, ill-fitting armor, stays in the past where it belongs. I'm walking into this valley with a sling and 5 stones, truth, honor, brevity, calm tone, eye contact. They're not much. They won't impress anyone, but they fit my hands, and more importantly, they serve the name I'm carrying, not my name, not my reputation, not my cleverness or my diplomacy or my ability to talk my way out of tension. His name. The name that holds valleys. The name that steadies voices. The name that goes before me into rooms I'm too afraid to enter alone. In his name. 9:58 a.m. I'm standing outside the door, and every cell in my body is screaming to walk away. The brass nameplate catches the fluorescent light, Director of Operations, and underneath it, a name I've been avoiding saying out loud for 40 days. My hand is raised, ready to knock, but it's frozen in the air like I'm a statue of hesitation. Behind me, the hallway stretches back toward safety. My desk, my computer, the delete button on that calendar invite. I could still turn around. Send an email instead. Reschedule for next week when I'm more prepared, more calm, more someone other than who I am right now. But I don't move backward. I just stand here, suspended between flight and obedience, and for the first time in 40 days, I'm not rehearsing what I'm going to say. I'm praying, not the polished Sunday morning kind, the desperate Jacob wrestling kind. the kind that sounds more like accusation than worship. God, I asked you to remove this, to change their heart, to make this easy, to give me a sign that I could walk away with integrity intact. And you didn't. You just kept pushing me toward this door. Every morning for 40 days, this conversation has been waiting. And every morning, you didn't move the meeting. You moved me toward it. So if this is yours, if this valley is mine to walk through, then I need you to steady me, because I can't do this alone. I won't survive this alone. My hand is still raised. My heart is hammering. And underneath the fear, underneath the panic, underneath every instinct to run, a question I've been avoiding surfaces like a stone breaking water. What if I'm not here to survive? What if I'm here to be faithful? The shift is subtle but seismic, because survival has been my metric for 40 years. Keep the job, keep the peace, keep the reputation, stay safe, stay small, stay silent. But faithfulness asks a different question. Not will I make it through this, but will I honor God in this? Not what will this cost me, but what will hiding cost my soul? I lower my hand, close my eyes, and for the first time since this started, I stop trying to control the outcome. Stop calculating best case and worst case and most likely case. Stop building contingency plans and exit strategies and explanations for why it didn't work. I just let it go. The outcome, the response, the fallout, all of it. Because maybe that was never mine to carry. Maybe my job was never to win the battle. Maybe my job was just to show up and speak the truth and trust that the name I'm carrying holds whatever comes next. Divine whisper. Say my name over the valley first. I open my eyes, pull out my phone, not to scroll, not to delay, just to read the verse one more time. 1 Samuel 17, verse 45. King James. The words David spoke before he picked up a stone, before he ran toward the giant, before he knew how the story would end. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. I read it slowly, let each phrase settle, and then I do something I haven't done in 40 days. I apply it, line by line, not to an ancient valley, to this hallway, this door, this moment. Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. They have authority, position, power to hire and fire and make my life difficult, policies they can hide behind, consequences they can invoke. I'm not minimizing that. I'm not pretending the giant isn't real, or that his weapons aren't sharp. The sword is real. The spear is real. The shield is real. And if I come at this in my own name, in my own strength, with my own cleverness, I'll lose. Because their authority is greater than my eloquence. Their power is greater than my preparation. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, not in my competence, not in my tenure, not in my ability to articulate or negotiate or persuade. I come under a bigger name, a name that was holding nations before this company existed, a name that governs systems and structures and authorities, not just individuals. I'm not walking in there to win an argument. I'm walking in there as a steward of truth under the authority of the God who holds this building, this job, this boss, and this outcome in hands steadier than mine. The God of the armies of Israel, not a private deity, not a personal life coach. The God of armies, of organizations, of power structures. The God who doesn't just comfort individuals, he governs kingdoms. And if he governs kingdoms, he governs corporate ladders. If he holds armies, he holds organization charts. This isn't just about me and my feelings. This is about alignment with something bigger. Truth, integrity, honor. Things that matter to the God who holds the whole valley, whom thou hast defied. The issue isn't personal. It's not about me versus them. It's about a violation of something sacred, integrity, honesty, respect. What happened in that meeting 40 days ago wasn't just uncomfortable. It was wrong. And staying silent doesn't keep the peace. It just lets the wrong grow unchallenged. I'm not standing against a person. I'm standing for something. For truth. For honor. For the mission we all claimed to serve when we took these jobs. I slipped the phone back in my pocket. The verse is in me now. Not memorized. Internalized. And standing here, hand raised again, I realize something I've been missing for 40 days. I'm not David. I'm not the hero of this story. I'm just a man with a sentence and a name that's bigger than my fear. And that's enough. It has to be enough. Because if I wait until I feel brave, I'll wait forever. Courage isn't a feeling. It's a posture. And the posture is this. Feet planted, shoulders back, palms open, standing under a name that holds the outcome whether I see it or not. I knock. 3 times. Clear and steady. No turning back now. Come in. The voice is calm. Professional. I turn the handle. The door opens. And I step into the valley. The office is smaller than I remember. 1 desk, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the parking lot. They're sitting behind the desk, reading something on their computer screen, and they glance up when I enter. Their face is neutral, not hostile, not warm, just present, waiting. I close the door behind me, not dramatically, just firmly enough that we both know this isn't a quick check-in. You wanted to meet, they say, leaning back in their chair. I sit, not because I'm comfortable, because I'm committed. My hands want to fidget, with my phone, with my sleeves, with anything, but I keep them still. Palms flat on my knees, feet planted on the floor, shoulders back but not rigid. The posture I practiced this morning, the posture that says, I'm not here to fight, but I'm not here to hide. Breath prayer, 1 more time. Inhale, Lord of hosts. Exhale, goes before me. I meet their eyes, and I say the sentence, the 20 words I've been carrying for 40 days. No preamble, no apology for asking for their time, no long explanation about why I'm bringing this up. Just the truth, plainly spoken, with honor woven through it. I respect your leadership, and I need to address what happened in last month's meeting so we can move forward with integrity. Silence. Not hostile silence, just processing silence. They blink, set down their pen, lean forward slightly. Okay, they say slowly. What specifically are you referring to? And here's where the armor would have helped. Here's where the over-explaining, the 3-paragraph defense, the careful diplomacy would have given me somewhere to hide. But I don't have that anymore. I just have the stones. Truth. Honor. Brevity. Calm tone. Eye contact. Stone 1. Truth. You took credit for the client proposal I developed, in front of the executive team, without acknowledging my work or my team's contribution. Their face shifts. Not anger. Defensiveness. The kind that looks like confusion but feels like deflection. I wasn't taking credit. I was presenting the work on behalf of the department. Stone 2. Honor. I understand that's your role as director, and I'm not questioning your authority to present. I'm asking that when you present work I've developed, you acknowledge that so the team knows their contributions matter. They sit back, cross their arms. The sword and spear and shield are coming out now. Authority, policy, hierarchy. I don't have time to credit every individual contributor in executive meetings. That's not how leadership works. You do the work, I represent the department. That's the structure. Stone 3. Brevity. I don't argue. Don't explain. Don't build a case for why they're wrong. I just restate the truth, smaller this time, sharper. I'm not asking for public recognition. I'm asking for honest representation. What happened last month wasn't representing the department. It was erasing the people who did the work. The room gets quieter, not because I've won, because the truth is sitting between us now, and neither of us can ignore it. They uncross their arms, look at their computer screen, then back at me. I didn't realize you felt that way. It's not an apology, but it's not a dismissal either. It's an opening, small, fragile, but real. Stone 4, calm tone. I didn't bring this up to create conflict. I brought it up because I believe in the work we're doing, and I can't do that work with integrity if I'm pretending this didn't matter. They nod, slow, like they're deciding something. Then they lean forward, elbows on the desk. All right, I hear you. I don't agree that's what I was doing, but I hear that's how it landed. What do you need from me? And there it is, the question I didn't expect, the opening I didn't engineer, the moment where the battle shifts from confrontation to conversation. Not because I was clever, not because I was loud, but because I showed up, spoke truth, stayed present, and let the name I was carrying hold the space. Stone 5. Eye contact. I don't break their gaze, don't retreat, don't soften the ask to make it easier for them to swallow. I need you to acknowledge the work accurately in the next executive meeting. And going forward, I need us to have a conversation before you present work my team develops, so we're aligned on how it's represented. They exhale. Not in frustration, in something like relief. Like maybe they've been carrying this tension too, and naming it made it lighter. That's fair. I can do that. I nod. Once. Not in victory, in completion. The sentence has been said, the stones have been thrown, and I'm still standing. Not because the giant fell. I don't even know yet if anything will actually change. But because I walked into the valley and discovered what I came here to learn, the battle was never mine to win. It was God's to hold. My job was just to show up and speak and trust that the name I carried was steadier than my shaking, divine whisper. I fight for those who stand with me. The meeting doesn't end with a hug or a breakthrough or a dramatic shift. It ends with a handshake and a follow-up scheduled for next week. I stand, thank them for their time, walk to the door, open it, step into the hallway, and the hallway looks different. Not because the fluorescent lights changed or the polished tile suddenly glows, but because I'm different. I didn't run, I didn't hide, I didn't let the giant's shadow grow another cubit in my silence. I walked in, I spoke, I stood. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but faithfully. I make it back to my desk before my hands start shaking. Not from fear this time, from adrenaline, from relief, from the realization that I just did the thing I've been avoiding for 40 days and I'm still here, still employed, still breathing, still whole. The sticky notes are still on my monitor. Speak truth with honor. I respect your leadership, and I need to address what happened in last month's meeting so we can move forward with integrity. I peel them off, fold them, slip them into my journal. Not as trophies, as reminders. That courage isn't loud. That faithfulness doesn't require perfection. That the name I carry holds valleys I'm too afraid to enter alone. My phone buzzes. A text from my wife. How did it go? I stare at the message. Try to find words big enough to hold what just happened. But all I can type is 4 in his name. The follow-up meeting happens 6 days later. Wednesday morning. Same office. Same door. But I walk down that hallway differently this time. Not because I'm less afraid. I still feel the knot in my stomach. Still hear the old voices whispering that I should have just kept quiet. But now I know something I didn't know a week ago. Showing up is the victory. Speaking is the obedience. The outcome belongs to God. I knock, enter, sit in the same chair. My boss looks tired. Not angry, just weary. Like maybe they've been carrying something too. So, they begin. I've been thinking about our conversation. I don't fill the silence. Don't rush to make it comfortable. Just wait. You were right, they say slowly, like the words cost something. I presented that work as if it was mine. I told myself I was representing the department, but honestly, I wanted the executive team to see me as the one delivering results, and that wasn't fair to you or your team. Something in my chest unclenches, not because they agreed with me, though that matters, but because truth is sitting in the room now, acknowledged, no longer hidden under professional language and hierarchy and the careful dance of corporate survival. We spend the next 20 minutes talking through how to move forward, how to represent work accurately, how to communicate before presentations, how to build trust that got fractured. It's not perfect. There are still moments of defensiveness, still phrases that sound like excuses dressed as explanations. But it's honest, and honest is enough. Because I'm learning that reconciliation doesn't require perfection. It just requires presence. 2 people willing to sit in the discomfort long enough to find the truth underneath it. When I leave, I don't feel triumphant. I feel tired, relieved, grateful. Like I've just set down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying since I was 7 years old. The hallway is just a hallway now. Polished tile, fluorescent lights, brass nameplates on ordinary doors. But I walk past it every day for the next 3 weeks, and each time I do, something shifts. The fear that used to spike when I saw that door. It's fading. Not gone, just quieter, like it's been given a proper place instead of ruling the whole room. I start noticing other hallways, other doors, other conversations I've been avoiding. Not at work, everywhere. The text I need to send to my brother about a boundary he keeps crossing. The honest conversation with my wife about how I've been emotionally absent even when I'm physically present. The apology I owe a friend for cancelling plans 3 times because I was busy when really I was just overwhelmed and didn't know how to say it. One by one I start walking toward them, not all at once, not with some grand plan to become the most honest man in America, just the next one, the one God's been highlighting, the one that's been growing its own giant in my silence. And every time I use the same tools, the same 5 stones: truth, honor, brevity, calm tone, eye contact, the same breath prayer, Lord of hosts, goes before me, the same posture, feet planted, palms open, shoulders back, the same sentence structure, respect first, issue named, outcome desired. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. My brother pushes back hard, accuses me of being judgmental, hangs up before I can finish. I sit in my car afterward, hands shaking, wondering if I made everything worse. But then I remember, the battle isn't mine, the outcome isn't mine. My job was to speak. His response is between him and God. The conversation with my wife goes better. She cries. Not because I hurt her, though my absence did hurt, but because I finally named it. Finally stopped pretending everything was fine when we both knew it wasn't. We talk for 2 hours that night, and at the end she says something I'll carry the rest of my life. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be present. Present. That's the word that won't leave me alone. Because for 40 years, I thought safety meant disappearing. Staying small. Managing my presence so carefully that I never took up too much space, never said the wrong thing, never made anyone uncomfortable. But presence isn't about size or volume or performance. It's about showing up, being there, speaking truth, standing in the room instead of retreating into my head. And slowly, so slowly I almost don't notice, I'm learning to be present. At work, at home, in friendships, in the mirror, in prayer, not perfectly, not without fear, but faithfully. One conversation at a time, one hallway at a time, one giant at a time. 3 months after the meeting, a co-worker knocks on my door. Young guy, early 20s, fresh out of college with that look in his eyes I recognize immediately, the look of someone who's been rehearsing a conversation they're too afraid to have. "Got a minute?" he asks. "Come in." He sits, fidgets with his phone, starts 3 sentences and abandons them all. Finally, he just blurts it. "How do you do it? How do you say the hard stuff without losing your job?" I lean back. Think about how to answer. Because 3 months ago, I would have deflected, given him some professional advice about timing and tone and reading the room. But now, sitting across from this kid who's standing in his own valley, I realize he doesn't need strategy. He needs permission. Permission to be afraid and still speak. Permission to tremble and still stand. Permission to trust that the name he carries is bigger than the giant he's facing. So I tell him the truth. You don't stop being afraid. You just stop letting fear make the decisions. He nods, slowly, like he's testing the weight of those words. "But what if," he starts, and I hold up a hand. "What if they fire you? What if they don't listen? What if it makes everything worse?" I finish for him. "Yeah, I asked all those questions too. And you know what I learned?" He leans forward. "The thing you're most afraid of losing, your job, your reputation, your sense of safety, you're already losing it by staying silent. Because every day you don't speak, you lose a piece of your integrity, a piece of your voice, a piece of your soul. And eventually, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back." The words land heavy in the room. He's quiet for a long time. Then he asks the question I've been waiting for. "So how do I start?" I pull out a sticky note. Write 5 words. Truth, honor, brevity, calm, presence. Hand it to him. Write the 1 sentence you need to say. Just one. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, just the truth, said with honor. Then schedule the meeting. Don't wait until you feel ready. You'll never feel ready. Just show up and say it. He stares at the sticky note, nods, stands to leave, then turns back at the door. What if I mess it up? I smile, because I remember asking God the same question in that hallway 3 months ago. Then you mess it up, but you do it with integrity, and that's worth more than perfect silence. He leaves, and I sit there, sticky notepad in front of me, realizing something I couldn't have known in the valley. God didn't just teach me to face my giant. He taught me to help others face theirs. The wound became a credential. The valley became a training ground. The fear became a testimony. This is what it means to be a wounded healer, not someone who's conquered every giant and now dispenses advice from a place of superiority, but someone who's been in the valley, felt the fear, spoken anyway, and survived to say, you can too. Not because you're strong, because the name you carry is Sunday morning, church. I'm sitting in the same pew I've occupied for 3 years, half listening to announcements, when the pastor says something that stops my breath. We're looking for someone to lead a men's small group focused on difficult conversations, boundaries, confrontation, speaking truth in love. If you're interested, see me after service. My first instinct is to look away, to let someone else volunteer, someone braver, someone who has it all together, someone who didn't spend 40 days running from a hallway. But then I feel it, that quiet whisper I'm learning to recognize, not loud, not demanding, just present. Divine whisper. I didn't bring you through the valley to stay silent about it. After service, I find the pastor. Tell him I'm interested. He looks surprised, not because he doesn't think I'm qualified, but because I've been attending for 3 years and this is the first time I've volunteered for anything. He asks what changed, and I tell him the truth. I learned to speak, and I think God wants me to help other men learn it too. 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in a circle with 8 men, different ages, different jobs, different valleys, but the same look in all their eyes, the look of people who've been carrying conversations they're too afraid to have. We open with prayer. Then I tell them my story, not the sanitized version, the real one. The 40 days, the rehearsals, the backing down, the moment I finally knocked, the stones, the breath prayer, the discovery that courage isn't fearlessness, it's faithfulness. When I finish, the room is quiet. Then, one by one, they start talking. The dad who needs to confront his teenage son about disrespect. The husband who's been avoiding talking to his wife about finances. The employee who's been watching his boss bully co-workers and hasn't said a word. The man who needs to set boundaries with his parents and doesn't know how to do it without destroying the relationship. We spend 12 weeks together, every Tuesday night, working through the stones, practicing the breath prayer, writing the one sentence, role-playing the hard conversations, and slowly, one by one, they start reporting back. The conversations they had, the fear they felt, the obedience they practiced, the outcomes they released to God. Not all of them go well. One guy loses his job, another's confrontation with his son makes things worse before they get better. But here's what I'm learning. Faithfulness isn't measured by outcomes, it's measured by obedience. And every man in that circle, whether his giant fell or not, walks out of the valley different than he walked in. Not because he conquered fear, because he learned to stand in it. 6 months after the meeting, I'm driving to work, coffee in hand, worship music on low, when my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Is this the guy who leads the men's group at church? Yeah, who's this? You don't know me, but your name got passed to me through a friend of a friend. I'm in a situation, at work, and I don't know what to do. Everyone says to just keep my head down, but I can't. I can't keep pretending this is okay. And I heard you help guys figure out how to speak up without blowing everything up. I pull into the parking lot, turn off the engine. And for the next 30 minutes, I sit in my car listening to a stranger describe his valley. Different details. Same giant, same fear, same question underneath it all. Can I speak and survive? When he finishes, I don't give him a formula, don't promise him a happy ending. I just tell him what I've learned. You might lose something by speaking, but you're already losing something by staying silent. The question isn't whether it will cost you. The question is, what are you willing to pay to keep your integrity? Silence. Then quietly, I don't know if I can do this. You can't. Not alone. But you're not alone. That's the whole point. I hear him exhale, like he's been holding his breath for months and finally has permission to let it out. Can we talk again? After I do it? Absolutely. And before, if you need to, anytime. We hang up. And I sit in my car, staring at the building in front of me. The same building I walked into with trembling hands 6 months ago, and I realize this is what redemption looks like, not erasing the valley, reframing it, not pretending the giant never existed, learning that the giant wasn't the point. The point was always dependence, learning to walk into battles too big to fight alone, and discovering the name you carry is bigger than any weapon raised against you. The hallway I used to avoid? I walk past it every day now. Sometimes I even smile at the door. Not because the confrontation was easy, because it taught me something I couldn't learn anywhere else. I'm not meant to be silent. I'm meant to be faithful. And faithfulness sometimes sounds like a trembling voice saying the thing everyone else is too afraid to name. And that's okay, because the battle was never mine. In his name. The alarm goes off at 5:47 a.m., same as it did 9 months ago. But this morning, I don't wake up with a knot in my stomach. I wake up with purpose. Not the loud, aggressive kind. The quiet, steady kind. The kind that knows what it's called to and shows up anyway. Coffee tastes different now. Not because the beans changed, because I'm present to taste it. My wife is already up reading at the kitchen table, and when I sit across from her, she looks up and smiles. Not the polite surface smile we used to trade like currency. The real one. The one that says, I see you. You're here. Finally. We talk for 20 minutes before I leave for work, about nothing and everything. Her mum's upcoming visit, the weird noise the dishwasher is making, whether we should repaint the bedroom, ordinary things. But underneath the ordinary, there's presence, connection, the kind that only grows when people stop hiding and start showing up, when they stop managing their words so carefully that nothing true ever gets said. I drive to work with the windows down, even though it's October and the air has that sharp edge that promises winter. The building looks the same, glass and steel and fluorescent certainty. But when I walk through the lobby, badge in hand, I'm not bracing for impact anymore. I'm not scanning for threats or rehearsing exits or calculating how to stay small enough to stay safe. I'm just walking, present, awake, alive in a way I haven't been since I was 7 years old and learned that speaking costs more than silence. The 4th floor, the hallway, the door with the brass nameplate. I walk past it on my way to my desk, and I don't flinch. Don't avoid eye contact if they're in the hallway. Don't rehearse what I'll say if we end up in the elevator together, because the giant isn't gone. Giants rarely disappear completely, but he's not ruling the valley anymore. He's just one obstacle in a landscape I'm learning to navigate with steady hands and a name that holds outcomes I can't control. My desk looks the same. Computer, coffee mug, the sticky notepad where I wrote those 5 words 9 months ago. But the man sitting here is different, not healed. I'm still learning what that word even means. Not fearless. I still feel the tremor in my chest when hard conversations loom. But whole in a way that has nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with integrity. I'm becoming the man I was always meant to be. Not the man who never feels fear. The man who feels it and speaks anyway. Who trembles and stands anyway. Who doubts and obeys anyway. My phone buzzes. A text from the young co-worker I talked to 3 months ago. Just 4 words. I did it. Thank you. I smile. Type back. How did it go? His response comes in 3 messages. Hard, they pushed back, but I said what I needed to say. And I'm still here. I'm still here. I read those words twice, because I remember the shock of that discovery, the disorienting relief of walking into the valley, speaking the truth and surviving. Not unscathed. Survival rarely leaves you unmarked, but intact, still breathing, still employed, still yourself, only more so. Like the fire burned away the pretense and left something truer underneath. I type, proud of you. The battle was never yours to win. He sends back a single word. His. And I realize, this is how it spreads. Not through sermons or seminars or 12-step programs for people who've lost their voices. Through ordinary moments. One conversation leading to another. One man learning to speak, then teaching another. One valley walked through, then the courage to help someone else walk through theirs. Wounded healers multiplying in the most unlikely places. Office buildings and dinner tables and quiet conversations in parked cars where someone finally admits they don't know how to do this alone. Lunchtime. I'm eating a sandwich at my desk when my boss walks by, stops, backs up, knocks on the cubicle wall. Got a second? My stomach doesn't drop anymore. Just a small flutter, the normal kind that comes with unexpected requests, not the panic kind that used to send me spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Sure. They lean against the wall, casual, tired, human in a way I didn't see 9 months ago when they were just boss, just authority and threat and the person whose opinion could make or break my career. I wanted to thank you, they say. I blink. For what? For calling me out. 9 months ago. I've been thinking about it a lot. And you were right, I was taking credit. Not because I'm a bad person, at least I hope I'm not, but because I was so focused on looking good to the executives that I stopped seeing the people doing the actual work. You reminded me what leadership is supposed to look like, and I needed that. The words sit between us, vulnerable, honest. The kind of thing that doesn't get said in corporate America unless someone's learned that truth matters more than image. I appreciate that, I say, and for what it's worth, you've changed too, I've noticed. They nod. Smile slightly. Yeah. Well, turns out getting confronted isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Sometimes it's the thing that saves you. They leave, and I sit there, sandwich forgotten, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. Because I'm starting to understand something I couldn't have known in the valley. The giant I faced wasn't just my giant, it was theirs too. My silence was enabling their blindness. My fear was protecting their dysfunction. And when I finally spoke, when I walked into that valley and said the thing that needed to be said, I didn't just free myself, I freed them too. Gave them a chance to see what they couldn't see. To change what they didn't know needed changing. That's what truth does. Not always. Not magically. Sometimes truth gets you fired or ostracized or labeled difficult, but sometimes, truth opens a door no one knew was there, creates space for change no one knew was possible, reminds everyone in the room that we're all human, all flawed, all learning, and honesty is the only path through the mess. That night, the men's group gathers. 8 faces around a circle. We've been meeting for 6 months now, and I can see the change in all of them. Not dramatic transformation, just slow emergence, like plants breaking through concrete. One by one, they're learning to speak, to stand, to walk into their valleys without armor that doesn't fit. Tonight, we're not teaching. We're celebrating. Each man shares one conversation they've had in the last month, one giant they faced, one moment they chose faithfulness over fear. The dad who confronted his son. They're talking now. Really talking. Not perfectly, there are still slammed doors and tense silences, but there's also honesty, boundary, respect growing in soil that used to only grow resentment. The husband who avoided financial conversations, he and his wife sat down with a budget, cried through most of it. But they're on the same page now. Not because the money problems disappeared, they didn't, but because they stopped pretending and started partnering. The employee who watched his boss bully co-workers. He spoke up. Got pulled into HR. Thought he was getting fired. Instead, 3 other people came forward with similar concerns. The boss is on a performance improvement plan now. And the office feels different. Lighter. Like someone opened a window in a room that's been suffocating for years. The man who needed to set boundaries with his parents. That one's still hard. They haven't spoken in 2 months. He carries the grief of it, but he also carries peace, the kind that only comes when you stop betraying yourself to keep other people comfortable. We sit in the weight of their stories, not rushing to fix or minimize or silverline anything, just holding space, witnessing, reminding each other that faithfulness doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it just looks like obedience, and obedience is enough. because the outcome was never ours to control. Before we close, I ask them to do something we've been building toward for 6 months. I want you to write a letter. Not to send, just to write. To the person you were before you learned to speak. The version of yourself who was silent, afraid, hiding. Tell him what you know now. What you wish he'd known then. What you want him to remember. We write in silence for 15 minutes. Pens on paper. Grown men with tears on their cheeks and truth spilling onto pages no one else will read. When we finish, I ask if anyone wants to share. One by one they do. I wish I'd known that my voice mattered. That staying silent wasn't keeping the peace, it was just keeping me small. I wish I'd known that courage doesn't mean fearless, it just means faithful. I wish I'd known that the thing I was most afraid to lose, my sense of safety, I was already losing by refusing to speak. I wish I'd known I wasn't alone, that God was there, that He's always been there. When the last man finishes, I pull out my own letter, the one I wrote last night, and I read it aloud. Dear 7-year-old me, standing at the dinner table with a question you'll never ask again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you learned that speaking up meant danger. I'm sorry you carried that lesson for 40 years. I'm sorry I let fear steal your voice and dress it up as wisdom, but I want you to know, it wasn't wasted. Every moment you stayed silent, God was there, not causing the harm, catching you in it, teaching you the weight of words so you'd use them with precision instead of recklessness, preparing you for a valley you'd walk into at 31 where you'd finally learn. Your voice was never yours to protect. It was His gift to steward, and stewarding it means spending it on truth, on honor, on the people who need to hear what only you can say. You're not a coward, you're not broken, you're just a man learning to speak, and that's the bravest thing you've ever done. The room is quiet. No one moves. Then one by one, they start nodding, because they recognize themselves in the story, recognize the 7-year-old inside them who learned silence was survival, recognize the journey from fear to faithfulness that doesn't happen overnight but happens one valley, one conversation, one obedient step at a time. We close in prayer, not eloquent, not rehearsed, just honest, thanking God for valleys that train voices, for giants that teach dependence, for the name we carry that's steadier than any trembling, bigger than any threat, more faithful than any outcome we can see or control. I drive home through October darkness, windows still down, cold air sharp against my face. And I'm thinking about the hallway, the one I used to avoid, the one that became my valley of Elah, the one that taught me everything I needed to know about courage and faithfulness and the difference between surviving and living. That hallway isn't just a place anymore, it's a symbol, a gate, the threshold between who I was and who I'm becoming, between silence and voice, between fear-driven and faith-led, between managing my presence so carefully that I disappear and showing up so fully that I'm finally, truly here. And here's what I'm learning. There are hallways everywhere, conversations waiting, giants taunting, valleys stretching ahead with no guarantee of safe passage. But they're not traps. They're training grounds, places where God teaches us what we can't learn in comfort, where He strips away borrowed armor and hands us stones that fit our hands, where He whispers the oldest truth in the newest way. You're not going alone. Divine whisper. Every valley you walk through becomes a gate for someone else. Your obedience is their permission. Your faithfulness is their map. I pull into the driveway, sit in the silence for a moment before going inside, and I think about the young co-worker, the men in the circle, the stranger who called 6 months ago and now leads his own group in another city, the ripples spreading in ways I'll never see, never measure, never control. This is the mission. Not to conquer every giant, not to win every battle, not to become fearless or flawless or some sanitized version of courage that looks good on Instagram. Just to walk into valleys when God says go, to speak truth when silence feels safer, to stand when running feels smarter, and to help the next person do the same. Wounded healers, that's what we're becoming. Not because our wounds are gone, some of them never fully heal, but because we've learned what the wounds taught. that God doesn't waste pain, that valleys aren't punishment, they're preparation, that the very thing that tried to silence us becomes the story that gives someone else permission to speak. I walk inside. My wife is on the couch, book in lap, lamp casting warm light across the room. She looks up, smiles, and I realize this is what sacred emergence looks like. Not dramatic, not loud, just ordinary life lived with extraordinary presence. Coffee at dawn, honest conversations, showing up for the people in your circle, helping someone face their giant, going to bed with a clean conscience because you spoke what needed speaking and released what needed releasing. This is the life I almost missed. The one I would have traded for safety if God hadn't pushed me into a valley and taught me the difference between surviving and living. Between managing fear and standing in it. Between hoarding my voice to protect it and spending it to steward it. I sit next to my wife. She sets down her book, leans into me, and we sit there in comfortable silence. The kind that only grows between people who've learned to speak truth and hold space and show up even when it's hard. Good group tonight? She asks. Yeah, really good. They're getting it. One conversation at a time. She squeezes my hand. Just like you did. I nod. Because she's right. I didn't wake up one day fearless. I just woke up one day and decided faithfulness mattered more than comfort. That integrity mattered more than safety. That the name I carried was steadier than my shaking. And I walked into a hallway I'd been avoiding for 40 days. That's all it takes. One hallway, one conversation, one act of obedience when every fiber of your being is screaming to run. And on the other side, not perfection, not fearlessness, not some arrival point where giants stop appearing, just the discovery that you're not alone. You were never alone, and the name you carry holds every valley you'll ever walk through. Sunday morning, church. I'm standing in the lobby after service, coffee in hand, when I see him. The stranger who called 9 months ago, the one I talked to in my car, voice shaking, asking if he could speak and survive. He's here, in person. Walking toward me with a nervous smile and a woman beside him, his wife, I'm guessing. I had to meet you, he says. Had to thank you in person. We talk for 20 minutes. He tells me what happened after he spoke up. The pushback, the tension, the 2 weeks he thought he'd lose his job. And then, slowly, unexpectedly, change. His boss apologized. The policy he challenged got revised. The culture that silenced people for years started cracking open. But that's not why I came, he says. I came because of what happened after. He tells me about the co-worker who pulled him aside after hearing what he did. Asked how he found the courage. He passed along the 5 stones. The breath prayer. The 1-sentence framework. That co-worker spoke up. Then another. Then 3 more. Now there's a group of them. 7 people meeting every other week. Practicing the tools. Walking into their valleys. Learning that faithfulness doesn't require fearlessness. You started something, he says. You probably don't even know how far it's spread. But it's changing people. Changing me. I don't know what to say, because I didn't start anything. I just walked into a hallway, spoke 1 sentence, discovered God was there. And then, because wounded healers can't help but share what healed them, I told someone else. And they told someone else. And now there are groups in 3 cities. Dozens of men learning to speak, hundreds of conversations happening that wouldn't have happened if I'd stayed silent. This is what redemption looks like. Not erasing the valley. Multiplying the breakthrough. Not keeping the lesson for yourself. Passing it on like bread in a hungry crowd. Trusting there's always enough, because the source never runs out. We pray together in the church lobby. 3 of us. Strangers 9 months ago. Brothers now. Thanking God for valleys that train voices, for giants that teach dependence, for the name that holds every outcome we're too small to control. When they leave, I stand in the lobby alone for a moment, watching people file out, and I think about the question that started all of this. Can I speak and survive? The answer is yes. But survival isn't the point. Faithfulness is. And faithfulness sometimes looks like trembling hands knocking on a door. A voice that cracks saying the truth. Feet that want to run but stay planted instead. A heart that wants to hide but chooses presence. And on the other side, not guarantee, not safety, not immunity from pain or consequence or the thousand ways giants keep showing up. Just the quiet, steady knowledge that you showed up. You spoke, you stood, and the name you carried held you through it. That's enough. It's always been enough. I drive home one last time through ordinary streets in ordinary daylight, and I'm thinking about the title of this story. I was afraid to speak. God taught me to stand. Past tense, present truth, because I'm still afraid sometimes. Still feel the knot when hard conversations loom. Still hear the old voices whispering that silence is safer. But I stand anyway. Not because I'm brave, because I've learned what's on the other side of obedience. Not perfection, not fearlessness, just integrity. The kind that lets you sleep at night. The kind that looks you in the mirror and doesn't flinch. The kind that says, I showed up. I spoke truth. I stood under a name bigger than my trembling. And that's enough. The hallway is a gate now. The valley is a training ground. The giant is a teacher. And the voice I thought I'd lost, it was never lost. Just buried under 40 years of fear dressed up as wisdom. And God, patient, persistent, faithful God, spent 40 days in a valley teaching me the difference. This story exists, so you'll stop waiting for the fear to disappear before you speak. So you'll stop believing courage means fearless. So you'll walk into one hallway today, just one, and discover what I discovered. You're not going alone. The name you carry is older than Goliath, steadier than any authority, more faithful than any outcome. It held David in the valley when armies fled. It held me in the hallway when my voice failed. And it will hold you, not because you're special, because He's faithful. Not because you're strong, because His name is. Not because you've arrived, because He goes before you. 3 anchors to carry forward. The promise. God's name is greater than the threat, greater than the boss, the giant, the consequence, the fear. The battle is the Lord's. 1 Samuel 17:47. Every word of it, every outcome of it, every result you can't control. His. The practice. 1 sentence, 1 posture, 1 plan. Write the truth in 20 words or less. Speak it with honor. Stand with feet planted, palms open, shoulders back. Schedule the meeting. Show up. Say it. Release the outcome. The perspective. Courage grows where avoidance ends. Every valley you walk through trains your voice for the next one. Every giant you face teaches you the name you carry is steadier than your shaking. Every conversation you stop avoiding becomes a gate someone else walks through after you. Here's what I want you to do in the next 24 hours. Text yourself the meeting time and your 1 sentence. Set it as your alarm label tomorrow. When it goes off, don't negotiate, don't delay, don't draft email number 12. Just get up, pray the breath prayer. Lord of hosts goes before me. Walk to the door, knock, speak, stand. Will it be perfect? Number. Will they respond the way you hope? Maybe not. Will it cost you something? Possibly. But will you walk out of that room knowing you were faithful? Yes. And faithfulness is the victory. Because the battle was never yours to win. It's His. It always was. Prayer. Lord of hosts, I bring you this conversation I've been carrying, this hallway I've been avoiding, this giant whose shadow has grown too tall in my silence. Steady my voice. Aim my heart. Remind me I don't speak in my own name but yours. The battle is yours. The outcome is yours. My job is presence, not perfection. Meet me in the hallway like you met David in the valley. In Jesus' name, amen. Phrase to carry. Name over noise. When the giant's voice gets loud, say it. When your knees want to buckle, remember it. When fear whispers that silence is safer, declare it. The name you carry is bigger than the noise. Always has been. Always will be. Practice. Before you sleep tonight, write your 1 sentence. The truth you need to speak in 20 words or less. Put it on your bathroom mirror, your car dashboard, your phone lock screen. Anywhere you'll see it tomorrow. And when you see it, don't rehearse, don't edit, don't negotiate, just obey. Schedule the meeting, show up, say the sentence, stand in the truth, and let God hold the outcome. Because you were never meant to fight this battle alone. You were never meant to carry the weight of every result. You were just meant to walk into the valley, speak His name over it, and trust. And that's exactly what you're going to do. The hallway is waiting, the door is there, the conversation is yours to have. Not someday, Today, because valleys don't disappear when we ignore them, they just grow darker. But the moment you step into them, something shifts. Not the giant. You. You discover what David discovered, what I discovered, what every person who's ever walked into a valley under God's name discovers. You're not alone. You've never been alone. And the name you carry holds every trembling step, every stammered word, every outcome you're too afraid to imagine. So go, walk into your hallway, face your giant, speak your sentence, stand in your truth, not because you're fearless, because you're faithful. And faithfulness, obedient, trembling, imperfect faithfulness, is the only courage that matters, in His name.